Namaste, friends. Today I'm going to talk about a very important practice in the path of spiritual progress that we have to imbibe in our lifestyle, in our thought process, if we want to progress on this path. Patanjali, in his famous Yoga Sutra, defines it as Yama, or the power of mental resistance. The power of mental resistance helps us in cleansing the dirt or the evil that is settled in our soul. As a devotee who is aspiring to enter a temple cannot do that unless he has cleansed himself of the dirt by taking a shower. Similarly, when the devotee has to enter into the body temple, enter into the soul temple, then that also cannot happen with a dirty set of thoughts and actions. So, any devotee who is aspiring for self realization will not be able to make that trip inwards unless the cleansing of the internal system has taken place. So, Yama is that protocol or that thought process, that system which helps us understand how we have to cleanse ourselves. And taking up this path of spiritual journey, taking up this cleansing process needs courage. And I will cite an example here because these days most of us are suffering from something I would call inertia. We have this laziness within us that stops us from doing our duty, stops us from making that energetic attempt of that dutiful action, because of which we keep postponing what is to be rightfully done. And because of that, we have to lie because we cannot deliver. Think of it as in a professional sphere. We cannot deliver our work on time if we have not worked, followed a timeline, done it sincerely. So, since we cannot deliver, we lie and we say that, okay, this happened, this excuse, that excuse, and then we try to cover it up. But this, we also are trying to lie by using justification. I lied because anybody in my situation would have lied. But we are not trying to go back in a soul searching process where we understand that this was not right on our part. Where have I failed in doing my duties? And this justifying to cover up, to not affect the ego, is only detrimental to our spiritual progress. And we need a whole lot of courage for developing that mental resistance when the inertia sets in and I am not doing my work, my duty, and I am trying to distract it by going on social media, by watching some videos which are not relevant to my work, by uh, going on entertaining myself. I have to stop myself from these distractions. So that is the mental resistance, that when there are distractions, I have the courage in me to say no to the mind which is jumping from one distraction to the other and not allowing me to do my duty. So Yama needs a whole lot of courage that we have to instill in ourselves to develop this mental resistance to avoid these distractions. And it is just an example that I've cited, but we have to develop a whole pattern, a new pattern of which is based on truthfulness, on righteousness, on being sincere, on being timely, in being truthful to not others but to ourselves. And that also needs a whole lot of courage because it needs a whole lot of work to be done. It needs us to break out of the inertia and be active and be truthful to our work. Yama is a moral conduct that we have to instill in ourselves. The moral conduct is of no injury to others, which is basically the principle of ahimsa, where we are not harming anybody. At a at a superficial level, it would mean that being vegetarian or not harming anybody physically, but at a more deeper level, it also means not harming anyone's emotion, not saying words that could hurt people. So, not just at a physical level, but how we conduct ourselves, how we communicate to others, in that we have to be mindful that we are not harming anybody. Similarly, of not stealing. So, here at a superficial, it might seem that you are not taking somebody's objects, material objects, but at a more deeper level, it would mean not stealing even thoughts, ideas that somebody has shared with you, and you are taking it and using it for yourself to get the benefits out of it. That is also an act of stealing which we have to avoid. Self control is something that is very deeply entrenched in Yama, because when the distractions, the desires, the sense desires of food, sexual pleasure, of flattery, all these are trying to engulf your soul, is trying to distract you. You have to have that resistance within you, the self control within you to say no, because it is not going to help you in your spiritual progress. It is very easy to be said than done, but that is the only way that we can progress on the spiritual path. So there is no shortcuts here. So instilling self control is definitely something that we have to imbibe in our lifestyle. Similarly, control our material desires. I want this, I want that, I want house, money, name, fame, power. All this should not stop us from going further in our path to spiritual progress. So, we have to discipline ourselves in developing that mental resistance to too many desires, because material desires are necessary, but it is not where we should just stop ourselves. We have to stop this vicious cycle where we are not making any spiritual progress because our desires are multiplying, and that is the end of our spiritual growth. So, the moral conduct that we have to instill in us is that of stopping this mental distraction at our mental level, so that we do not spring into actions which are evil in nature, which are not righteous in nature. So, Yama has the ability to neutralize our karmic effect, because when we instill Yama, we unlearn the dysfunctional pattern, and then that gives an impetus to our spiritual growth. And this mental resistance to these distractions not only neutralizes the past karmic account or the mistakes that we do in the past, but also the present actions. So, this is a very action oriented protocol that Patanjali has described in detail in his Yoga Sutra that every devotee has to sincerely reflect and apply to their lives if they want to progress in the path of spiritual growth. Thank you for your attention.